Hi, Gabriel.
Audrey.
I can't mute her. Hello.
Hi, Audrey. Who else have we got here? Neve there. Let me unmute Neve. All right, who else have we got? Hi, Neve. Where's Scarlett? Let's see if I can unmute Scarlett. And have we got Lottie there? Gabriel. How are you, Gabriel? You're all right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I see your now. Am I right in thinking that Jake entered one of the things from the online show?
I do not know.
I think he did the jumping with Star. His name came up, and I said, "Are you sure it's Jake?" He's going, "Yep, definitely Jake."
I do not have a clue.
Oh, good for him. I'm glad he's still managing to ride.
Mm.
Now, I am wondering why we can't see Scarlett. Scarlett,
You might have turned off her camera.
I know, that's probably very wise, isn't it? I can't unmute her either. She might need to do it from her end.
Oh. I'll text her.
And I think we've got Lottie rather than Caroline Norton on here, so I shall see if
Yeah.
And I shall. So is anyone managing to ride at all, or are you all? There we go. We've got Lottie.
Hi, Alison.
Hi, Caroline. How are you?
It's not real. It's not real.
Oh, good. We got a dog in the background as well there.
Sorry, when I said hello, she thought that someone was at the door.
Fantastic. No, nobody knocks on doors anymore.
How are you?
Very well indeed, thank you. How are you?
We're very well, thank you.
Good. I was just asking whether anyone's managing to ride. I think our pony club seems to be riding an awful lot less than anyone else. We're obviously way too law-abiding.
No, you are, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. Join in the conversation,
Lottie? Are you riding over at Aaron's at all?
No, I've got Max at our yard now. And Ali's having some time off.
Okay.
So I'm only riding Max at the moment.
I've been trying to persuade Aaron that he needs to do a yard tour, but I think he was getting a bit shy about it, I think.
That'd be good.
I think his would be really good, wouldn't it? It would be really interesting because we only ever get to see a little bit of it. So.
Oh, we'll talk him into it, Alison.
Well, yeah. Go around there with the camera and from a 2-meter distance, see if you can film him. And who have we got there? Oh, we've got Poppy as well. Hi, Poppy.
Hello.
Are you well?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Oh my God, we've got hail here. We've got a proper hailstorm. Is anyone else getting that?
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's going to get very noisy on here. Right, let me just see if we've got Sasha anywhere here. I think she's probably trying to log on. She's got slightly creaky Wi-Fi where she is. And we may have some members from the Cotswold Pony Club joining us as well today. So who have we got there? Oh, excellent. We've got Scarlett and Scarlett. Superb. And Emily. Hello, Emily. Hello. Hello. And who's that? Archie. Hello.
It's there, isn't it? Oh, there we go.
So Archie, now Archie, you're from the Cotswold, aren't you? Can Archie hear us? Oh, there we go, there's Emily, superb. Can you see us okay, Emily? We have Sasha. Right, fantastic. Sasha, can you, are you connected okay, Sasha?
Yeah.
You can hear us okay? You're quite quiet at the moment. You might need to turn up your volume if you have control.
Maximum volume at the moment.
Okay, or else we'll shout. And we've got various people. There's Jemima just joining with the lovely pink background there. We have people still joining us.
Oh my god.
Oh,
How do I change that? Let me turn that off.
yeah, we quite like seeing everyone's bedrooms here. And Sasha, I think, can you see where to scroll from side to side to see who else is in here?
Yeah, I put it on so I can see everyone at the moment.
Oh, well done. So what are you on? Gallery view. Brilliant. Superb, well done. And I think, so Archie, we've got a couple of other members joining from the Cotswold. Presumably they've all got the link, so they may well join in if they can.
Yeah, everyone's got the link, but I don't know if they're going to join or not. So.
Superb. Well, we shall hopefully see them later on. Brilliant. Well, I think what's probably sensible is we will get going, and then because it's 6 o'clock, so we will get started. Good old Pony Club fashion, getting started dead on time, and then others can join along as we go along. So I shall hand over to Sasha.
Have you done housekeeping, anything? Just while
no, so everyone at the moment is unmuted. So have you all found where your mute button is? So if you do have dogs barking in the background, or your mother's coming in nagging you about not tidying your bedroom or whatever else, just mute yourself. If anyone's particularly noisy, I'll just mute it from here, or I'll just shout out and we can mute it. I probably won't be able to tell who's it is actually, but we'll try and keep them all unmuted just so that you can join in and just ask questions as if you are all in the room together. You're probably used to it from doing Zoom calls with school and so on. And we will we'll be completely finished within an hour. If anyone is needing to disappear off, just disappear off. This is entirely voluntary, and we'll be recording it. Hopefully, yes, it is recording. Is everyone happy being recorded? I've got a feeling we're going to get new directives from Pony Club coming out on Monday, which might mean we can't record things after Monday if anyone is under 16. But for now, we are okay recording it, and it does then mean if anyone's missed it, they can join in with it and catch up later. So otherwise, I will hand over to Sasha, and you can get started.
Cool. Hi everyone. So which of you guys have looked at the topics you need to cover for the stable design and fittings and everything?
I've had a little look at the website, but not much.
I've had a look on the folder, so.
I've looked.
Yeah, I've had a look at the book.
Have you had a look at your own
Yeah,
stables?
same.
Have you had a look about your own stables?
Yeah.
Cool. And have any of you done the drawing of the ideal or your ideal stable design?
Yeah.
I just drew a box though. I didn't really know what else to do.
You did a what?
I just did a box. Couldn't really think of anything to add
That's
to it.
fine. Does anyone want to share their stable design?
Yeah?
Yeah? Cool.
Lovely.
Cool. So can you run us through what's in that?
Well, I've got a big water butt. That is like floor height. So, because it's probably more natural for horses to drink from floor height, probably.
Yeah.
I think that's better. And nice and big. I put 5 meters each side. I mean, that's probably ideal, but it's quite massive. So, then a sliding door.
Okay.
That's just easier because. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Because then, like, the horse can't run away and stuff if you just partially open the door. So, but that's my ideal stable.
Okay, cool. Anyone else want to share what they've got, and then we'll discuss kind of the beta syllabus about it. Anyone? No? Okay, that's no worries. So let me just share my screen with you and I will show you. No. Can you see that?
Yeah.
One moment. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to make this full. Okay. Yeah. I'll try and get back now. Okay. So on the syllabus is this. So comment and discuss stable, shown and described to you, including the necessity for ventilation, light, drainage, shelter and warmth, and what fitting is useful in a stable. And then these are the specific topics you want to think about. So one of the best things you guys can do to prepare for your B test is look at as many different stable designs as possible, and kind of analyze them on all of these different things. And you kind of want to have one thing to say about each of these things. So one opinion on ventilation, warmth, flooring, etc. But just before we go on to it, can someone tell me what flooring they would have as a preference?
Concrete, but then rubber matting.
Yeah, rubber matting.
Yeah, rubber matting.
Rubber.
Yeah, and why would you have rubber matting?
It's soft on their feet.
So they don't step over.
Yeah, so it's good because it's not flippy, and when they go down to roll, it means that they're less likely to scrape themselves on anything. And they also, it's money saving as well. You don't need to bed them up quite as much as if they were on concrete or cobbles or something. What's another one? We've already, I think it's Archie slightly touched on, he would feed hay from the floor because it's natural. So that's another thing you can think about, what you'd feed hay from. And you just, like I said, you want to have these kind of as a bullet point in your head as the different things you want to look at before you go into the B test exam, and just run through them in your head. So this is kind of basic 3 different stable designs. So on the left, you've got like the American barn style stables. Top right, you've got outdoor stables, but kind of in a barn shape. And then bottom, you've got just outdoor stables. The main thing to look at here is ventilation. So which one is the best ventilated?
Well, is it going to be the single completely outside one? Yeah, isn't it going to be the completely outside one because it can't get stuck anywhere?
Yeah, so I would say the bottom right would be most ventilated. Obviously, we can't see a huge amount of the stable, so we can't see if there's windows or vents or anything. But as you say, because of the way that is like a completely outdoor stable, will have much more ventilation. However, it does mean that the horses are much more exposed to the elements. It'll be colder for them. If it's raining and the cover doesn't stick out much, if you've got sideways rain going to the stables. So that's the disadvantage of it. However, that is good for ventilation. So if you had an isolation box, you'd ideally kind of want it away, downwind from everyone, and also as ventilated as possible so that the horse can get rid of any cough or cold it has. What's the importance of an isolation box on a yard?
Well, if you have a new horse coming, you don't know what potential risk they carry if they're sick or if they haven't been vaccinated or something like that. You don't want to spread it to your horses. Yeah, and why would you want it therefore to be downwind from your yard, the main yard? That if there's wind, it carries it the opposite way of your horses rather than in the way of your horses. Yeah, precisely. Okay, which of these 3 stables do you think will be the lightest of the 3, like brightness wise?
Bottom right.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Bottom right.
It depends, like what time of day and where it's facing.
Yeah, so that's very true. The bottom right could be bright. However, it could also be very dark in there because if they've not got a back window, you're only going to get light in there, as you say, as the sun shines into the stable. For me, I would say actually the indoor barn would probably be the brightest, because there's the big double door at the end and there's windows at the top. As long as those are kept clean, you're going to have daylight in there all day, so it stays quite bright in there. But obviously there could be windows on the top of the outdoor barn, so you don't know. What else can we look at from these photos? Which of these three would you personally, let me have a look here, would you personally like to put your horses in?
The barn.
The barn.
Yeah.
The green bottom right one.
Okay, so Archie, why that one?
Because the horse is probably like just having, they can look out like into, I assume it's probably a yard. They can like look out to the goings on in the yard, like what's going on, and they probably just start looking at keeping their minds active if they're in their box. But also it's just they'll have more fresh air and it'll be nicer for them.
Okay. Anyone want to counteract that with their opinion? Because I heard quite a few people say in the barn. So someone that said in the barn, why would you choose that over the outdoor one? Come on, be brave. Lots of you said in the barn.
Friendlier all year round.
What was that?
It's friendlier all year round, regardless of light levels or anything.
Yeah.
The horses are more protected. Yeah, the horses are more protected than the outdoor barn completely, so they'll be warmer and they won't, for example, be rained on, etc. if the wind changes direction, like in the green barn.
Yeah, and I think another consideration when you're looking at this is whereabouts the barn is located or the stables are located. So I'm sure some of you are on a hill or in the open or near the ridgeway where when it gets windy, it gets really windy. Yet some people will be in a valley where you don't really notice the wind. That will make a huge difference in what barn would be better for you. So if you're in a very windy location, you would probably find that an American barn would be better and more comfortable for the horses. But if you're in a busier place, like in a town or on the outsides of a town or a city or something, that's when you'd probably want the open sided, like the green type stables, just because realistically ventilation won't be as good because there's not as much wind flow, because there's probably more buildings up around you and might not be on the top of the hill, and also they won't be as exposed to those elements. It doesn't matter. So just have a think about your bar, like where your horses are and whether it's kind of the advantages, the disadvantages, things like that. Okay, so next thing is different types of flooring. So I think most people's opinion was rubber matting would be their preferred flooring. Rubber matting is, I would say, probably most people's preferred flooring for the reasons we said. It's not as slippy. It means they can't scrape themselves if they go down for a roll. And also it's more economic with shavings. You don't have to use as many shavings, and that is something you can say in your test. You can, like, because that is a consideration when you're running a yard or when you're looking after horses. They're not cheap, so you can say, like, part of the reason is that it saves money on shavings. You don't have to use as many. What other considerations if you have a concrete floor?
You need
the angle.
Yeah, that's a really good one, Bella. Was that you, Bella? The angle? No? Who said the angle?
That's me. That was a...
Oh, that's a really good one. So why is that important?
You want it to drain well.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly, I would say on most floors, you want a good angle. Where would you want the angle? Which way would you want it sloping?
Towards the door, not towards the back. You want it to come out of the stable.
The drain.
What was that?
Or towards a drain if you have a drain in the stable.
Yeah, and that's a really good one to think about and plan, especially with certain, like if you have shavings on absorbent or anything like that, that's going to be a huge consideration. What was it? Someone else said something else about concrete flooring. Who was it? I think they said the thing about shavings, so you're going to need more shavings. That's partly because they need more protection. It's not as soft, it's not as, it's a bit slippery, and also they'll get more splashback when they wee, so they'll be more comfortable if they have a thicker bed. And the last one I think that a lot, some older barns have is cobbled flooring in the stables. What are advantages, disadvantages of that? Who would like that? Who wouldn't?
And they're harder to clean.
Yeah, they're harder to clean. Stuff will get stuck in the gaps. Is it slippier or less slippy than just concrete?
Less slippy.
Less slippy.
No,
Yeah. It kind of depends
harsh
how.
on their feet.
Pardon?
It's quite harsh on their feet, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd want to bed them up quite well if they're on cobbled. It can be slippy, however, it can go both ways. If it's lots of small cobbles, then there'll be lots of little bits to grip on. But as you say, it's harder to clean. It's harder to get the bits out of, and you need a big bed for it. So that's just a consideration. But it's more of like rubber matting is the most expensive option. So you need to be able to consider the other options as well.
Cobbles
So,
can also give good draining.
pardon?
Cobbles can also help with draining.
Yeah, they can. That's a good point. Yeah. You don't tend to have wet patches too badly. So the next one is stable doors. Well, I thought one of these was sliding, but it's not. So just to comment, I quite liked Archie's comment at the beginning on the sliding doors. It's a small consideration, but obviously you can have like just normal opening ones or sliding ones. What was your reasoning for sliding ones, Archie?
Well, I have to admit I did get it off the video that I watched. But it's because you can get in, you can open the door enough for you to get in, but the horse can't get out.
Yeah.
It's also, if you have horses who open their doors, then they're less likely to open it with a sliding door than with a door with a latch or with something you pull. My one does it, he has to have like a lock on his door, so a sliding door doesn't open like that.
Yeah, so I've used both. I prefer sliding doors because of that. I find they're easier to avoid, like the wind can't catch them fly open or fly shut. But generally you only have them on indoor barns. Why would you ever, what would be the reason to close the top door if you had the split door like in an outdoor stable? When would you close the door?
You wouldn't close with the horse in it, because otherwise the ventilation's quite bad.
But if you have a horse, for example, who has like an eye problems, and during the day it's quite sunny, you might shut them in there to avoid them getting sunlight into their eye and worsening their condition.
Yeah, so exactly. In general, you'd never close the door unless they've got an eye problem, or if the vet's there and he needs to look in their eyes, you'd also close it, or in exceptionally bad weather, as in if there is, I don't know, a hailstorm pointing into their stable, or extremely high winds and the horse is restless and stressing, then you might, but for as minimum time as possible, because as you said, the ventilation is nowhere near as good. Actually we'll come on to that later. What about latches? What different types of latches are there? Obviously they're different for sliding ones and just normal opening ones. What do you have?
You have deadbolt.
Yeah. What can be the disadvantage of a deadbolt?
They can quite easily slide open, like the horses can pull them open if they're clever. So, so you definitely need a second bolt, like at the bottom of the door for that.
Yeah, or one of those I don't know what they're called, but you know the swinging lever ones. I think there's a picture.
Yeah, so like the kick bolt there, or there. So yeah, that generally you'd want, for a door that opens like that, I would always want a kick bolt on there, because your horse might not have ever opened the door before, but you never know when he might, and it's just nice to have that added security. Can you see on the left-hand picture? It's quite hard to see, but can you see what type of bolt is on there?
I think that's just a deadbolt.
Normal one.
A deadbolt? I think it's a deadbolt, but.
So it's one, I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's the one where you have to lift up a little bit to slide it along.
Yeah.
Oh, I have those.
Yeah, so they are a little bit more horse-proof than just the normal up and along and down. Yeah. But again, you want
yeah.
Cool, right. So then we think about water in the horses' stables. So these are kind of 3 options. You've got automatic waterers, water buckets but hanging up, water buckets on the floor, or a water trough style thing. What are people's opinions on these 3 or these 4 options?
Well, natural for them to be on the floor, but also they get dirtier with haylage when they're on the floor.
Why do you prefer it to be on the floor?
It's just how they naturally eat and drink in the wild, and it's better for their neck.
Yeah. And do you know why it's better for them generally?
No, I don't.
It's their natural position where they can their systems work.
Yeah. And it's also issue with the drainage of their lungs. They drain their lungs better the more time they spend with their head down. The better they drain their lungs.
You can easily kick it over.
Yeah, so if they kick it over in the night, and then they don't have any water.
Yeah, if you have loads of horses, you don't want to do buckets all the time. It's very labour intensive, that method.
Yeah, and again, that's a really good and really valid point. Like, if you have a yard of 40 horses, you can't be washing out and cleaning buckets, 40 buckets twice a day. It's just not practical.
But with the automatic, with automatic ones, if you have, say, like young horses or new horses to the yard, they might not be familiar with that system, so they might not use it. So you might have to put a bucket down for them at the beginning, or just in general bucket down. They're scared of the noise and don't understand the system. Yeah,
that's very true, and they're also harder to clean than just normal buckets. What's an advantage of an automatic waterer?
If you're in a big yard, you don't have to refill. The horses can do it themselves.
Yeah,
there's constantly water available. Yeah, there's always water there.
Yeah, you also, it's more like you don't waste water. You're not emptying it unless you're cleaning it. But again, it's just a little handful. What are some disadvantages of the automatic?
You can't tell how much the horse has drunk.
Yeah.
But it's also good because horses can only drink in small quantities. So if they've come back from work and they're quite still warm or hot, or after cross country, say, they're not supposed to drink in large quantities. So something like that might suit them better.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's the real main disadvantage of it is that you can't track how much they're drinking.
But set up in stables like a system that can that shows you how much water your horses have been drinking. You won't know exactly which horse, but you see approximate amount.
Yeah, and if you're realistically, again, these are the type of things that would be used on a big yard, and there's likely to be people around on a big yard all day, so you're going to notice the horses drinking generally, and you can tell signs of dehydration. I think one time when I would not use it is if I've got a horse that's unwell or showing signs of being unwell. I'd probably swap it over to a bucket so that I can accurately monitor if it's drinking, how much it's drinking. What could you use to stop a horse kicking a bucket over if it's on the floor?
A tyre?
A brick in the bottom of the bucket.
I've heard that one before. I think the normal one is probably a tyre. I've not heard of the brick in the bucket, but I would just be careful with that one, because my only thoughts are if the brick disintegrates, then you're going to have a bit of a sandy.
Don't worry, I haven't done it. That was just a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a suggestion. I would probably stick to the tyre.
That seems more sensible.
Yeah. But yeah, a tyre, or you can kind of clip them onto the wall if wanted. If you've got a bucket handle like the one on the bottom, which way should it be facing in the stable? So you've put it up against a wall.
Towards the wall. Like you should point it away from the horse, basically.
Yeah. So it's quite a small one, but quite an important one. So it means they can't get their, if they are pouring at it, they won't get their foot caught in it or anything like that. It's not sticking out, protruding, or anything like that. And what about a like water trough in the stable, or a big water bucket?
Well, some horses like to only drink fresh water, so when it gets a bit old, you'll be wasting quite a lot of water having to empty it and clean it.
Yeah, and it's not just that they like it; it's better for them. You want them to be able to drink.
Well, that would take up quite a lot of the stable space.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say generally it's probably not the best idea, because you can't keep it as clean. As you say, it takes up a bit of space. But if you've got a horse that has to drink from the floor, and whatever you do, it will kick a bucket over, it might be the best option you have. But generally, I would avoid it. What about the top right picture? What are people's opinions on that? So like clipping the water up.
Do you kicking it over?
Yeah. But you've got the problem, they're not then drinking from the floor.
And they could also get caught in it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are quite, I would probably want them a little bit higher if they were mine. But they aren't too bad. You'd want them, I can't see what it's attached with, but whenever I've done this in the past, I've always attached it with a bit of baler twine, so if they did pour and get their foot in the bucket, the baler twine would break. Right. Feeding. So, or just feed. How do you prefer to feed your horses in the stable?
Bucket, a shallow bucket on the floor.
Yeah, on the floor.
Yeah. I agree. What are other options?
Trough. Feeder that goes in the stable.
Yeah, so bottom right picture there, which just clips on.
Yeah, feeders.
The rotation rule.
The rotation
on the doors.
Yeah.
on walls.
Yeah, so the ones that they rotate, stick out, you pour in the food, then they around. What are some advantages or disadvantages of those rotating ones?
Quite quick, like a new horse.
It's efficient.
They're really hard to clean.
Yeah, so it's quick and it's efficient, but they're really difficult to clean. The newer ones kind of can clip on and clip off, but it's not as easy as just putting a bucket in and pulling it out. But as you say, they are more efficient because you can just pour the food in. This is another one that I would say is probably good for big yards, but probably not great on smaller yards because of it saves time. But there's the disadvantage, as with the water, that they're then not eating for, and it's difficult to clean. Why is it important to clean the buckets daily?
So that no old food is left in there.
Yeah, so no food gets mouldy. It's also good because if a horse does have a cold or a cough or anything, it's not going to get passed on. What about that top right photo? What about that type of feeder?
It's upright again. It's like when they. No.
Right.
The one in the corner.
Oh, in the corner. Oh.
Again, their head is up again, which is not very natural for them. So.
Yeah, and they're harder to clean.
Yeah.
However, again, it's a little bit quicker.
They can't kick it over.
Yeah, they can't if you've got one that kicks it over. What are another? So if you have a horse that scoffs its food, bolts its food, what would you do to slow it down? What are some options?
A bit of cattle. Yeah, more chaff.
You could. I don't know who that. They're breaking up.
You could
I can't, I'm not sure who that is. But you're not coming across very clearly. No? Okay. Anyone else got any idea? So
like rocks in their food.
Yeah, so big and safe rocks that they don't think it's their food, but as you say, something bulky in there. You could even put kind of salt licks, small salt licks in their feed buckets just to slow them down. And
you can get those balls where you can put the food in and then they have to roll it in little bits one at a time.
Yeah, and that's quite a solution for young horses who perhaps for some reason in the stable and they're bored or anything like that. If you give them something like that, it will keep them entertained. They'll make their food last longer. What about putting water in their feed? Will that help slow them down? Yeah, it will, and it will help. It will help prevent any choke if they do bolt their food, because it all washes down better. Okay, and then hay and hay nets and the different options. So one option is obviously hay in a hay net, one is hay on the floor, and one is hay in a hay rack. Like you see in, again, that top right photo in the top left hand corner, there's a little hay rack. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So what are people's different opinions on those three options?
Hay nets help them to eat their hay slower, not just eat it really quickly.
Yeah.
It's not as natural for them.
Yeah.
In a hay rack, dust can probably get in their eyes and their head's got to be quite high up.
Yeah.
A risk of the hay net is that if it's not attached properly or if the horse is eager to get its foot caught. But if you have a messy horse with its hay, then it's best so that it doesn't go everywhere and it's easier to box.
Yeah. Yeah, as you say, if you've got a horse that's very wasteful, if you put hay on the floor, they might kick it into their bed, and that is then expensive. However, hay nets take time to fill up. They're not as quick, so they're not as time efficient. I agree with the hay racks, unless you've got one of those floor to ceiling hay racks. They're not natural. They're normally above the horse's natural head level, and bits of hay and hay seeds may fall in their eyes, etc. So yeah, those are some really good points. Okay, I think the other thing to look at is the solutions to problem horses. So there we go. Okay. So what is a solution? First of all, does everyone know what it means when a horse gets cast?
Yeah.
Can someone explain?
Gets stuck on its back and it can't roll over again on its front.
Yeah. And what is a solution for a horse that gets cast?
Banks on your back.
Casting belt thing.
Yeah, so those are quite two good ones. So first we'll just talk about banks. So why will like a well banked up bed help?
And help them roll. It helps them roll back over.
There's space between them and the wall.
It's more that it will stop them getting cast. The more modern theory is that banks, unless they're very large, generally won't make a huge difference. Because a bank of fluffy straw against a 500 kg horse, the horse is going to squash the straw. But it is a valid point. It is why you use banks. And then the other point I think was the anti-cast strips or anti-cast belts. Does everyone know what they are?
No.
So it is basically a strip of rubber that runs around the stable. One moment, I'm going to try and find a photo for you. Here we go. let me screen share. Where'd we go? Can you see that now?
No.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
So it's literally just one of these strips of rubber, and you attach it about that level away from the ground, and that's generally where they're going to be pushing off from the wall. So as they push off, they can kick against that bit of rubber and push themselves back over. Are there any other things that people might use to stop a horse getting cast? Any other ideas?
Anti-cast rollers.
Yeah. So do people know what they are?
No.
So that is, it's like a roller that you use if you're going to lunge a horse, except it has a bit of metal or material at the top that basically stops the horse being able to roll onto its back. What are advantages, disadvantages of this?
You can't really put a rug on afterwards.
They don't roll.
Yeah, they won't generally roll. I'll show you a photo again. Oh, hang on, that's gone wrong. Do you think it is comfortable for them?
No, not really.
No, so you can imagine if you put one of these on overnight, it's not going to be hugely comfortable for them. It's a bit like having a girth on. Imagine if you had to sleep in one of them, it wouldn't be ideal. That green option there, do you see equine management? That's another option. It's a bit of an extreme option, but you can get kind of slopes built into, like, slopes built into your stables to help a horse not get cast. But that's quite extreme. I would say the most affordable and best option would be the anti-cast strips. Okay. What about solutions for a horse that bangs its door? Anyone got anything that you could do?
Could you put padding on the door?
Yeah, so rubber matting or padding on the door, just so that it won't stop them banging the door, but it will stop them hurting their knee or hurting anything basically. If they're hitting the door, they are more likely to injure themselves, so that will protect them. What's another thing you can do if you want to stop the horse banging completely?
You could like put bars like across the entire window, like opening on the door, so
block out the door. So yeah, bars on, so there's still ventilation. What are the disadvantages of this?
It means they can't really see the other horses.
Yeah,
depends on the layout of the stables, but they can't see the other horses.
Yeah, they can't see the horse, they can't stick their heads out, it's not as sociable for them. But if they're a really bad horse that bangs, it might be necessary. I think one consideration is how big your stable is, because if you're already in a small stable and you then prevent them sticking their head out, it makes their stable feel a lot smaller to them. But if you've got one, I've used, again, think of a horse that you might use this one. I used it on a horse that would bang at 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning, which isn't sociable. It would wake us up. So we used bars on it, but we only used it overnight. Took them off during the day because he didn't do it during the day, or it didn't affect anyone. So that's just the type of thing you want to consider. What about a horse that crib bites or windsucks? Does everyone know what this is?
Yeah.
To put like a strip on the top of
Don't know who that is. Yeah, you can put a strip on the door at a certain height, which means they can't get the right angle to do it. Anyone else?
Can't you put a collar on?
Yeah, you can put a windsucking collar on. What are the disadvantages of that?
It's not very comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, probably not that comfortable. Why would you stop a horse from biting or windsucking?
Bad habit.
Yeah, it's a bad habit. They can wear down their teeth more. However, you want to consider, some people believe that other horses can learn how to do it. It's not proven, but it is a theory. But there's also the consideration that some horses do it some very stressed horses do it as stress management, and you might not necessarily want to put a collar on them. What's another option that you could think about for a horse that crib bites or windsucks?
You can put something that tastes horrible on their door, so they don't want to.
Yeah, I'd say generally they'll find something else to do it on, because they're quite obsessive with it normally when it's a bad habit. What about bars on the door that can't stick its head out and can't suck on the door? So that's one option, but again, it's got the same negatives as putting bars on for a horse that bangs. Another option would be to put a bit of wood, because horse that crib bites or windsucks can damage your stable because it's chewing on it. So another option would be to put a little bit of wood or something in the back corner that the horse can windsuck on, so it doesn't disturb the other horses as much. The other horses aren't watching the windsuck, things like that. What about a horse that weaves? Does everyone know what a weaving horse is?
Where they sort of rock.
Yeah, so when they stand in the stable and do that. What can you do to stop a horse that weaves?
You could have sort of a V-shaped bar.
Yeah, so the V-shaped. Does everyone know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the door?
In the door, yeah. So, because they generally stick their head out and do it. And then they can still stick their head out, but they can't weave as much. And yeah, the other option, if they're really bad and they're still going to do it, again, you could put bars on the door. What about a horse that box walks?
Turn it out as much as you can. Tends to be a stress thing.
Yeah, it tends to be a stress.
Yeah, to do with their social interactions.
Yeah, so considering the social interactions, what else might you consider if they box walk?
If they don't have a friend.
Yeah, so think about where they are on the yard. Are they on the end? Are they at the end of the stable? Are they in the middle? Do they prefer to be in a quiet place, in a noisy place, things like that? Another thing you might want to think of is putting a toy in there for them or something. So a ball that you can put food in that they can roll around, or some horses just like playing with the balls that they can pick up and throw. Things like that, just to keep their mind entertained. Try and get them out of the stables a couple of times a day, that type of thing. Okay, last thing we're just going to think about quickly is bedding that you would use. So what bedding do people use?
Shavings.
Straw. Shaving, straw. Anything else? Chop straw. Pellets. Anyone use cardboard or paper? No, that's kind of a race horse type thing. Okay, so shavings, advantages, disadvantages.
Quite absorbent.
Hold as much dust.
Yeah, absorbent, dust. Yeah, you can be dust extracted.
They're more expensive.
Pardon?
They're more expensive.
They are more expensive.
Oh,
yeah.
They decompose a bit better than like hay and straw and stuff does.
Yeah.
Take up from.
Yeah, they take them. Yeah. They probably take up less room than straw does, though, because you can kind of stack it on pallets. Advantages or disadvantages of straw?
Horses can eat it.
It's cheaper. Dustier, yeah. There's generally more waste, and you generally need more of it because you need to top them up most days.
Yeah, the horse could eat it sometimes.
Yeah, so some horses will eat straw, which is very healthy for them. What about pellets?
It's quite absorbent.
It's absorbent. It's easy to store because they expand. You don't use much storage space, but they can get a little bit dusty. What about chopped straw?
It's quite cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap. It decomposes quite well, so farmers will be more happy to remove it. What else?
There'll be like less waste.
Yeah, you deep bed chopped straw, so as you say, less waste. You only remove the wet once a week. What would be people's preference on bedding and why?
A mixture's best, I think.
A mixture?
Well, what I do is I get the pellets.
Yeah.
I have a stable and it's got cobbled floors. Right. And so I put pellets on the floor and then put straw on top of it. So the pellets absorb all the wee. And also when I make them a bit wet so they like spread out. And so it stops it being so slippery. And then because they absorb all the wee, it just wastes less straw.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Anyone else got anything else they would prefer?
I find shaving easier to keep clean.
Yeah, shaving generally look smarter.
Yeah.
And as you say, are easier to keep clean. Anything else? Dust-wise, what's the best option? Price-wise, what's the best option?
Straw.
Yeah. What about storage?
Pellets.
Yeah, and this is the type of thing you want to think about when you're thinking of stable design. You also want to think about the outbuildings. Do you have space do you have somewhere to store any of this stuff? Because that will affect how many horses you can have. If you've got no storage, you can't have a lot of horses. The other thing to think about stable design and fittings is where your muck heap is. Where would your ideal muck heap be?
Quite close.
Downwind, yeah. So the most important thing is downwind. Why downwind?
Flies.
Yeah, flies. Keep the flies away from the horses. Perfect. Right, so if you can all, between now and your bee test, the most important thing to do is just analyse different stable designs. And a lot of it is opinion, but opinion based on facts. So all of these, the discussion topics, that's the type of things you want to go off of. Have something in your head, a positive and negative idea for them, and you'll be ready to go. Oh, that's the other one. Sorry, didn't go through this one really quickly. Lighting and electricity. I completely forgot that one. Why do you need lights in your stables?
Ideally,
yeah. Unless you have a lot of daylight.
Yeah, ideally, yes. In the summer, you might be all right without them, but in the winter, you're going to want lights. If you have a vet that has to come out for an emergency call late at night, the horse might get spooked by if you have a torch on. If there's absolutely no way you can have lighting down there, you'd probably want to have a battery type light that you can turn on in an emergency. What about electricity, sockets, etc.? What would you use?
They're useful.
Covered if possible.
Yeah, covered. Ideally out of reach of the horse, so none in the stables. And as you say, covered, waterproof, and horseproof, so they can't open them and lick them or anything like that. So that's just another thing to consider. The other thing is with lighting, where the lighting is, you don't want it hanging low. You don't want it so low that if they, for example, rear up in the stable, they might hit their head on it, or anything like that. So yeah, that's just another consideration. I'd say probably the best lighting, in my opinion, for stables is the strip lights, just because you don't need loads of them and they cover a large area. But everyone has different opinions on them. So yeah, just have a look at different stables. Once lockdown is over, try and go and see your friends and look at their stables, or FaceTime them, analyse each other's stables, because when you do your bee test, the most likely thing that they're going to do is get you to analyse the stables that are in front of you. So if it's at Rectory, which I think it probably will be, have a look if you can on their website. Look at the stables. They've got quite a variety there. I don't know if they have photos, but if you've been there and you know what they look like, or try and Google it and just analyze their photos from there, so you have something in your head ready to go. Or if you know where your test is going to be, just Google the test centre, because they'll probably ask you to analyze that and possibly describe your ideal option. So have that in your head, have why it's going to be your ideal option. And yeah, so the plan, I think, if this was helpful for you guys, if it was good, the plan will be to do another one next week. So the information and video will come out on Monday, and we'll do another Zoom call on Friday. And I think it's on saddle fitting, bridle fitting, martingale fitting, and also bits. So yeah, if it's helpful, and that'll be good, we will do that. Yeah.
What we might do, Sasha, is split into 2 groups for next week, just so that it's a bit more manageable, because it's been lovely to have quite so many, but it's, I think 27 in the group is probably getting to almost too many. So we'll split it into 2. If anyone's got any particular preference on what time, what works for you, Sasha? Does it work to do 6 and 7, or?
Yeah.
So if we do a session at 6 and a session at 7 next Friday, and when we send the link out on Monday, just reply if you've got a particular preference for one or the other, but otherwise we'll just split it in 2. Okay.
Perfect. Have a nice week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sasha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Leave meeting.
Was okay.
Superb. Absolutely fantastic. Good. Hang on, let me just turn let's see if I can just turn the recording.